Hi, it's the Intrepid Eater here. I'm just out on a spring foraging walk and I've come across a fun little type of fungus that is perfectly edible and is a great find in the spring. It's called the amber jelly roll, and here it is right here, just on this stick. So the amber jelly roller is also known as Excidia rusita, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Tends to grow on oak or willow branches, and usually just on dead branches. And the way I generally found them, as I found them here, they're actually on dead branches that have fallen off the tree and get caught up in another tree. So to find them, since they're so small, they're hard to see, I generally look for an oak tree and then look around for branches that have fallen off. So you can see here, they're quite small and crispy, and jelly fungus has the ability to dry up when it's dry outside. The minute it rains or the air gets really moist, these guys will balloon right up into kind of an ear-like looking fungus. So you can actually pick these off and then store them and reconstitute them in water. They don't have a lot of flavor, but they do soak up flavors really nicely, and they can be used in place of woodier fungus in Asian recipes. They're quite nice and they're easy to harvest, keep in your pocket, and save for another day. So on my walk here, I found another potential edible. It's known as colt's foot, and it's commonly confused with dandelion due to its yellow flower here. You can tell the structure of the flower is actually quite different. The stalk looks quite a bit different from a dandelion, and you'll notice that there are no leaves yet. This plant is often known as the son before the father, because the stalk and flowers shoot up well before the leaves do in the spring. It's one of the first spring flowers you generally see and can often be found in moist areas. I have to express some caution with this plant. It's known to have certain chemicals that react poorly with the liver, and a lot of people have said not to harvest and eat this plant, although others do. So do your own research and be careful. People often will eat the stem of colt's foot, like asparagus, and also will soak the flowers in honey to cure coughing. So it's been used as a medicine for a long time. But like I said, there are dangers, and they have been known to react poorly with liver, so I'm going to leave these guys alone. So I just come across an awesome spring edible that I love seeing every year. It's the first I've seen it this year, and that is wild violet. So you see these beautiful purple flowers. They can be purple, light purple, even like a variegated white. And these flowers pop up in the spring. You can see there's not much green around yet, but they're always some of the first flowers up. And the flowers, you can just pick them like this, are actually edible, and you can eat them raw, throw them in a salad, eat them as a little trail nibble. They're really nice. You can also infuse them into tea or into water, into syrups. You can make cocktails with them. If you infuse them into a syrup and add acid like lemon, they'll actually change color, kind of like Empress gin. They are such a wonderful little wild edible. If you find a patch like this, I just pick a couple. And the good thing about them too is that the leaves are also edible. The leaves are good raw, can be added to a salad along with the flowers, or they can be cooked like a pot green, like spinach or anything like that. So this is a wonderful little find. It's a pretty small patch actually. Often you can find like much larger patches, so I'll just take a couple and let the bees have the rest and look for some more. So just around the corner I found another awesome wild edible that's great in the spring, and I like this one a lot because I can harvest as much as I want. And the reason behind this is it is a pretty nasty invasive species, and what I'm talking about is garlic mustard. So garlic mustard can be seen with these glossy leaves, kind of a paler underside. They're a little lobe-like. They do look a lot like the violet leaves actually, but if you pick one, crush it, and smell it, it smells just like garlic. It's really sharp and pungent like a mustard or a garlic, which is why it's called mustard garlic, or garlic mustard, sorry. This stuff can be sliced up and put into salads. It can be cooked like spinach. It will give a really lovely sharp garlic taste to everything you add it to, and it's just an awesome mild edible. Eventually these plants will grow really tall and the leaves will get tough and bitter and they won't be edible really anymore, or not as good. But right now the leaves are young and tender and perfect. And like I said, this is an invasive species. It often grows on edges like right here. I can just pick as much of this as I want, and it's gonna be back next year in the same way as it is this year. So I think I'll harvest lots of this for dinner tonight. So moving deeper into the woods now, I found yet another spring edible. These ones are trout lilies. The trout lilies, very common. They have this kind of mottled appearance, and you'll find them this time of year. These ones are starting to get a bit bigger, and you'll find them everywhere in the forest pretty soon. These guys can be eaten in moderation by boiling them like a pot herb or a green. I say in moderation because if you eat too many of them, they can cause nausea or vomiting. So you don't want to eat too many. So just pick a few, add them to a pot of greens if you find nettles or dandelions. They make a great addition, but you don't want to eat too many. They'll eventually grow a beautiful yellow flower, and I just love seeing these guys in the woods. I'm very excited to have found one of my favorite spring wild edibles, and that is stinging nettle. These stinging nettle are often found in disturbed areas or in moist areas. You can see, I don't know if you can see here, they're full of these tiny little stingers, and those stingers actually act like little hypodermic needles that will leave a rash and a stinging sensation probably sometimes for hours. Luckily when they're young like this, they don't tend to sting as much, although sometimes they do, so be careful. You should probably pick them with gloves, but these guys aren't stinging. These are still very young. They're gonna be very tender. These will eventually grow to pretty tall, often like 6 feet tall, and they'll eventually get tough. But in the spring they're just lovely, tender. Once you cook them, the stingers are completely deactivated, and they're just such a good tasting spring edible. Just treat them like spinach. They're very successful in the wild, so you don't have to worry really about over harvesting them, which is nice. They'll always come back. I like to take just the kind of the tops like this, and I'll take quite a few of these and make something nice. And I'll keep coming to similar patches around here, and I'll harvest some more as the spring wears on. And once summer comes around, they won't be quite as nice anymore. You still harvest sometimes the tender tops of them. Like I said, these are delicious, and you should keep your eyes open. They actually grow in my garden often, which is hard on my hands, but it's kind of nice because I get to eat them just like any other garden vegetables. So yeah, stinging nettle. So I've just come across a pretty cool fungi that grows in the forest. It can often be found in the spring and even in certain winter conditions. And that is the scarlet elf cup. And these beautiful mushrooms develop a cup like that. You can see why they're called the scarlet elf cup. There are several of them kicking around the forest. There's some over there as well. I'm going to harvest a few of them. They need to be cooked, but are edible, relatively bland, but can be added to any mushroom dishes, and they're just a really cool find. So if we're going to talk about spring foraging, we definitely need to talk about dandelions. We have a dandelion here, just a little guy, and they're all over the place. Obviously you're familiar with them. Basically everything on the dandelion is edible. This time of year the leaves are nice and young and tender, and they're way less bitter than they are in the summer. When people talk about eating dandelion leaves, they're usually talking about these young tender ones, because yeah, if you've ever eaten a summer dandelion leaf, it's pretty bitter. So these guys can just be eaten as is in a salad. It's nice to dress them pretty sharply with like a mustardy vinaigrette, because they still are a little bit bitter, but these are really good for you, really healthy. You can cook them down like a spinach or a pot herb. Just wonderful this time of year. As the spring progresses into summer, you can use the flowers, you can use the buds, the stems. Everything's really good on a dandelion. So I'm gonna harvest some of these. There's some spots where there's lots of dandelions. It's another invasive, so you're not gonna hurt anything. So harvest as much as you want. Yeah, and it's one of the best spring edibles out there. Well, that was a productive spring forage. I didn't find any ramps like I had hoped, but I still call it a win because I found all sorts of great stuff. So let's see what we can do in the kitchen with it. Okay, we're back in the kitchen after a successful day of foraging. We got lots of wild greens to cook, and the dish I've decided to make with them is called Kuku Sabzi. And Kuku Sabzi is a Persian dish. It's kind of like an omelet or a frittata, and it's usually made with garlic chives and herbs and greens, but I'll be using all the greens that I harvested outside today and create the dish like that. So let's see how that goes. Okay, to make our Kuku Sabzi, I got about 2 cups of the greens I harvested outside. We have the dandelion, a couple of trout lily leaves, we have the stinging nettle, all that stuff I picked up. I left it out on the counter to dry, so I washed it very well because a lot of the stuff you pick up outside is full of grit. Soaked it in ice water, washed it, and then I let it sit on the counter for a couple hours to dry out. That will help keep the Kuku Sabzi firm, that egg firm. So I got about 2 cups of that. I have some black walnut, and these I harvested in the fall. Those will taste really nice in there. I have the amber jelly roll that I picked up off the oak branch. There's just a little bit of them. They're just really little guys, but I thought I'd throw them in just because I have so little of them. I have barberries. You can actually harvest barberries in Ontario, but these I actually bought at a Middle Eastern grocery store. They have really sour flavor and will add a really acidic, bright note to the frittata. I have some yogurt, and then I have spices I'm going to add to it. So I have black pepper, nutmeg, cumin, cardamom, chili, turmeric, and cinnamon in there. I'm also going to be adding a little bit of rose water, baking soda, or baking powder, sorry, and also some spelt flour to hold everything together. The first thing I'm going to be doing is chopping up all of my greens and herbs here. I want those chopped up nice and fine so they'll all get incorporated into the egg. I'm going to run through them a few times with the knife. Make sure there are no big pieces in there. And that's looking pretty good. Next, I'm going to add everything to a bowl, other than the herbs, and I'm going to whisk it all together. Okay, so in my bowl here, brush this aside, I'm going to dump 3 large eggs. I'm just going to break those apart and whisk them a little bit. Then I'm going to add my spices. Those all in there. It's about a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, chili powder, and cumin, and black pepper, and then 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon and nutmeg, and cardamom. Whisk those in. I'll add my barberries, my mushrooms, my walnuts. Those I toasted for a couple minutes just so they get a nice toasty flavor, and keep whisking. And get my yogurt in there. You can use Greek yogurt or plain. Whisk that in until it's fully incorporated. I'm going to add just a little capful of rose water. Often you can add actual rose petals or ground rose petals to this dish. But I want a little touch of that rose water. Brings out a really nice fragrance. Little goes a long way, so you don't want to use a lot of that stuff. About half a teaspoon of baking powder. And I'm just going to add a little bit, just a little pinch of whole spelt flour. Some nice spelt flour that was grown on a farm nearby. I'm going to get that all whisked in. And lastly, nice pinch of kosher salt. Okay, so that's looking good. Now I'm going to add all of my greens. Get those whisked in. You'll see the eggs thickening up here with all the ingredients. That's a good thing. I just want that all completely incorporated. Okay, that's looking good. Let's get it into a pan and start cooking. Okay, so we have everything mixed together in a bowl. We have a pan over medium heat. I'm going to add some butter and olive oil to the pan. Maybe a little less than a tablespoon of each. Got some olive oil here. Mix that up. And then we're going to add the egg mixture. Give it a final stir. And I'm going to pour it just all right in. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of smooth it over, flatten it out, press it down a bit, make sure that it's all nice and even. That's looking good now. This is going to cook over medium heat for about 15 minutes. I'm going to cover it just with the lid here so the top cooks a little bit as well. And we're just going to let that go for about 15 minutes. Check after 10 minutes just to make sure that it's not burning if you need to lower the heat. Just get your spatula underneath and take a little peek from the edges to just make sure it's not burning. Make sure you do that after it's set. So check on that in about 10 minutes. In about 15 minutes, it should be looking pretty done on the bottom. Okay, so it's been about 12 minutes and it looks like the bottom is getting pretty toasty, so I'm going to try to flip it. This is not easy, and let's hope I can do it without screwing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the frittata and I'm going to flip it onto a plate and then put it back into the pan rather than just trying to flip it with the spatula. So I'll put a plate on there. Invert it. You can see that's nice and toasty and brown. Put the pan back on and then hopefully be able to gently slide it off back into the pan. And look at that, we did it. I did not expect that to work. Not because it's overly difficult, but because I'm on camera. Okay, so we're gonna let that cook for another 5 minutes or so. We want the other side to get nice and toasty like this side, and then it's gonna be ready to serve. Okay, so it's been another 5 minutes or so. I believe it's done. If you tap it, you probably can't hear, but it sounds a little hollow, which is a good sign. I'm gonna do the same inverted plate technique. Put the plate on top, and then flip it out. And there we have it. We have Kuku Sabzi, made with fresh wild edibles, foraged in the spring. It's a beautiful time of year for this. I'm going to cut this kind of like a pie. There we are. And I'm going to garnish it with some garlic mustard. I actually picked this garlic mustard with the entire root, and I've been growing it in a glass of water, which is something you can do. It's kind of fun. That way I have it at my disposal in the kitchen for times like this. Okay, so there's Persian Kuku Sabzi with wild greens. Okay, let's try it and see how it is. Now this Kuku Sabzi would be great served with like an Iranian salad with cucumbers and tomatoes or pomegranate seeds. It's really tasty. Those barberries kind of come through with a little bit of acidity, and you can definitely taste the walnuts in there, those black walnuts, but the greens just taste amazing, and it's not overwhelmingly bitter or bitter at all, really. It's got this really nice, awesome spring flavor, and it's really delicious. Well, that's it for me today. What a fantastic day spent foraging, walking through the woods, and cooking. And the end product was this Kuku Sabzi, which was absolutely delicious. I really hope you try it. I hope you get out there and try some spring forage wild edibles. Great place to start is with dandelion and stinging nettles. You can't go wrong with those. Garlic mustard is another wonderful one. They're easy, they're plentiful, they're great ways to start foraging, especially in the spring. But if you do go out, I just want to warn you to be very careful. Do your homework and do your research. Don't depend solely on me for your foraging advice and knowledge. You want to read books, buy some, go to the library and borrow some, join social media groups about foraging and wild edibles, watch other YouTube videos, look on websites. Really do your homework because they can be dangerous. But if you do your homework and do it right, you can enjoy wonderful end products in the kitchen with them. So I hope you try it out yourself. If you're hungry for more, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and make sure you like and subscribe in the comments. Thanks a lot.